we talked at the beginning of the pod that we want to do something different. Now, I know that you probably heard the term the Mount Rushmore of wrestling.
Yes.
You know, that usually will include your top four. You know, Mount Rushmore kind of got off easy though because they're putting the four best presidents, and at that point in time, there's only maybe 29, 30 or so to choose from.
Yeah.
There's hundreds upon hundreds and hundreds of wrestlers to choose from. So we're going to give ourselves a little bit of leeway. And I want to talk about our favorites / best top five. So let's play a game today called Gimme Five. Does that sound like
I like
and
the
let's
name.
give me five, and we're just gonna shoot a little bit. Whatever comes to the top of our heads. Let's talk about where we think the five best are in wrestling, and I figure we can have a little debate, a little discussion, and hopefully get some feedback, and maybe incorporate that into the next pod where we talk about some feedback we get from others.
I like it. I like it. I feel like it's a complicated one because when it comes to professional wrestling, there's a lot to being the best. You could be the best in-ring performer. You could be the best promos. You could be. You could have the
best
fucking
of all of them.
The personality. Like you could. There's a lot of factors that make you great. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about it. We have a camera. We have microphones.
I mean, we're set for it. Yeah.
I think
all right.
so.
Let's flesh this out. Let's get it done.
Let's start it simple. All right. Let's talk about your top five WWF, WWE Superstars, and let's make it a little bit easier. Well, let's talk about the modern era since it was Vince McMahon's WWF. So, Bruno Sammartino obviously did a ton of stuff. We never seen his matches.
No, you're right.
We're guys that were born in the 80s and grew up through the 90s. And
so our era.
This is the wrestling that we know. And Bruno Sammartino is technically a territory guy, even though he was based in New York. He was New York. He was WWF.
Yeah.
But think about WrestleMania era on, I would say. So I'll start with you, man. Top of your head. Give me your top five. And now I'll tell you what, let's do this. Instead of doing your favorites, let's do your top five. Like, who do you think the biggest, the best WWF superstars or WWE?
Okay.
Your top five.
All right. Well, right off the rip.
So Mount Rushmore plus one.
The Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, is my favorite wrestler of all time for many reasons.
Not going to get a lot of argument out of me there, man.
I mean, he's great all around. Yeah, the stories you hear about him, maybe he's not that great of a guy.
Wait, if we're talking about the best people in wrestling, could be a different top five.
Good point. We'll leave that out
We're
of
going to talk about the characters
that's kind of what my point was
on our television screen.
Even what you hear about him behind the scenes, like when it comes down to it, he was one of the best, in my opinion, if not the best.
Absolutely.
Shawn Michaels, number one.
Shawn Michaels is your number one. I don't know if I can rank them off the top of my head like this myself, but who else you got in your top five? Man, just give me four more.
All right. I would say Bret Hart.
Yeah.
And Stone Cold Steve Austin would be tied for number two.
Okay.
They'd be neck real close, like number 2 and 3 or number 2 and 3.
And they're completely different characters in different eras. Well, Bret and Austin obviously overlapped.
Yeah.
97 going
like
into the Attitude
it's
Era.
almost like Bret passed the torch to Austin.
Big time, and they were both big time superstars. But I think most of our memories are different memories. You got Stone Cold with the beer truck, and you guys, all the stunners and everything. And Bret was the classic matches. Bret was the guy, I think, Bret and Shawn, in those early to mid '90s, where it's like it wasn't the Austin era where everything was must see, but like that was what kept you as a fan.
For sure.
Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels.
I mean, I watched wrestling before, but I didn't get sucked in and watch every single episode of Raw, then SmackDown when it came out, every pay-per-view, until Stone Cold Steve Austin came along.
Okay.
That's the way I see it. Like, before that, I loved watching Bret Hart, like, on Saturdays when they were doing, like,
Superstars.
Yeah,
man. Bret,
and all that stuff. Shawn Michaels. Like, that's how I knew it before. But once Stone Cold Steve Austin came around, I was a wrestling fan.
Yeah, Bret Hart could be with a mid-card, undercard guy, but still give you, like, 8 to 10 minutes where it was just like, man, it's the Hitman.
Yep.
And it was cool. And it was
the gimmick was awesome. When you're a kid, Bret the Hitman Hart is just cool as hell.
The sunglasses, and
the long hair.
To this day, if I have anything pink, I still like wearing pink. If I dress up with a pink tie or a pink dress shirt, I might give a little one of these and give a little Hitman tribute because of the pink and black will always be Bret Hart.
For sure, for sure.
Well, you got two more, man. Who are you thinking?
You can't pass up the Undertaker. That's probably the best gimmick of all time.
And he's so WWF. Like,
yep.
I mean, he's
to the 100%. Core. Never wasn't.
Right.
Aside from maybe when he was like Mark.
He was
Chapman.
He was Mark. He was not Mark Chapman.
Wasn't that his name?
No, it was Mark Callis. Mark Callis.
Yeah.
He did start in WCW.
His name, isn't it?
Mark Calloway.
Yeah. Something like I knew it was that.
Yeah.
Something.
The Undertaker is WWF, man. And the Undertaker, and we've all probably seen the Monday Night War special on the network and things like that. Where, I mean, WCW would have loved to have him, and he was WWF to the core.
He even said that like he could have went to WCW quite a few times, but
oh sure,
he was
loyal
to Vince.
Unfortunately, he was loyal to Vince, and Vince has been loyal to him, and now we have the reputation of the Undertaker. That, I mean, he in a world where everything is kind of make believe, you know, the Undertaker still is a larger than life character. Like, you know, like we can break down everybody's individual matches and how good their promos are. We can break all this stuff down, but the Undertaker's just the Undertaker. Like, to us, to people who are, you know, quote unquote smart, still the Undertaker.
Yep, the dead man.
If the dead man came to your door right now, I'd be like, I mean, I would get the chills. I'd hear the gong. Like, it's still something special about it.
Yep, I would hear that too. So, like, if I had a doorbell and he rang it and I knew it was him, I wouldn't hear ding dong. I'd hear bong. So yeah, no, I'd be terrified. I'd be psyched too. I'd be marking out once I realized what was happening.
Did you see? Maybe it was a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, where he showed up to Quicken Loans Arena for a Cavs game.
No.
LeBron didn't meet up with him, but like Kevin Love did. Now, I mean, Kevin Love is still one of the best basketball players in the league. You know, big star, and he's like a schoolboy, like meeting the Undertaker. The Undertaker's there in full attire, in the lobby of Quicken Loans, and I mean, all the Cavs were excited to meet him. It was awesome.
I would be too. I didn't know that at all, but like, I would imagine even people like who hate on wrestling and would probably, if they met the Undertaker,
you can hate on wrestling, but the Undertaker, he's a larger than life character.
Yeah, it's like meeting
Shawn,
a villain in real life.
Yeah, Shawn Michaels or Bret Hart would be like, they would be normal guys across the street. And yes, they're fantastic professional wrestlers, but the Undertaker is the Undertaker. You would stop what you were doing.
Agreed, for sure.
You got one more. Can you hit me with one more? Who's your fifth of the top 5 WWF WWE Superstars?
Let's see. Macho Man.
You are not going to get an argument out of me there.
I mean, like, he wasn't, he's no Shawn Michaels. He was Macho Man.
Uh-huh.
He did, everything he did was Macho Man.
It really was.
Like, and if you've ever seen the documentary they have,
of course,
he became Macho Man. Like once he was Macho Man and created Macho Man, he became Macho Man.
When the lights are on, he's the Macho Man. And the voice, I guess, isn't a work. The voice is his voice. Now, of course, he turns it up for the promos, and you get the hand motions.
Yeah. He turns it up to 11, you know.
Yeah, as most great characters do. That's basically it. It's yourself, and you turn it up to 11. And that is the Macho Man. Yeah.
Cream of the crop.
And again, we're talking characters, man. Imagine seeing the Macho Man with the big 10-gallon hat and the colors and the tassels and the big sunglasses and the over-the-top mannerisms.
Yeah, dude.
You would know the Macho Man anywhere. The Slim Jim commercials, of course. I mean, you could never watch a wrestling match in your life.
Everyone
you
knows
the Macho.
who Macho
you would
Man
know
is.
who the Macho Man is.
Even people that don't watch wrestling know who Macho Man Randy Savage is.
Absolutely. Well, see, mine. We'll get off of this one pretty quick because I share a lot of yours. We're talking the top 5 guys. Listen, now this isn't my favorite, but Hulk Hogan he's the Mount Rushmore of WWF, and Hulk Hogan brought so much mainstream attention to the WWF. You got to think now. I was a baby, and you weren't born yet when it was the Hulk Hogan era.
Yeah.
When it started, but before that, wrestling was just kind of like, you went to the wrestling match.
Yep.
And, it'd be on your local TV. But Hulk Hogan, they had cartoons, and they built WrestleMania around him with Mr. T, who was a top television star. So Hulk Hogan was he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. So Hulk Hogan brought professional wrestling from like the, if you're a fan of it, you're a fan of it, and you're not, you're not. He brought it to everybody's attention. Everybody this day knows who Hulk Hogan is. And he, the company became what it was, large in part to the Hulkster. So again, not my personal favorite, But you're talking top superstars, he's on there, and easily 1A 1B is the other guy who brought it to the next level, and that was Stone Cold. So Stone Cold's definitely right there with it.
No, I agree. You can't leave out Hulk Hogan in any way. Like the only reason I didn't pick him is because I was never really a huge fan.
And I'm not either. And me with the way I look at wrestling now can go back. And again, you're not going to go back and watch Hulk Hogan matches because they're the best matches you've ever seen. Yeah. But I mean, the reactions are.
Yeah,
the reactions are, and what wrestling was then, and what he meant to it, into the WWF, which WWF now is wrestling.
Yeah.
Of course, we know there's so much more wrestling out there, but the way UFC is to MMA. WWE is to pro wrestling, yep. and that was Hulk Hogan who really brought that into the fold.
And you think about the match with Andre the Giant, him passing the torch and everything. Right. It's hard not.
We all know that Macho Man versus Ricky Steamboat is a way better match in the ring. It's better for us to turn on and watch. But there was 90,000 people there, and Hulk Hogan and Andre brought the crowd in.
Yep.
And that's nothing. 90,000 people is insane,
especially back then.
And then Austin is right there with him too, because Austin took wrestling. Again, wrestling had a real down period as a whole in the early to mid 90s. Mm-hmm. Was cartoony. The stuff that Hulk Hogan did with the big cartoonish villains was fine in the late 80s and stuff, but it kind of died down, and the formula wasn't working anymore. Yep. And Stone Cold Steve Austin flipped the formula, turned it around to must-see.
The world was changing. Even you look at music in the early 90s, the whole world was like becoming modern in a way.
I mean, is that not the perfect word?
Generation X.
Generation X attitude. That was WWF attitude, but the whole era was attitude. It was everything was extreme sports.
Yeah.
Everything was just turning it up to 11. We were maybe a little bored with the status quo.
No, for sure.
I hate comparing wrestling to this, but like Jerry Springer was a big deal then. Everybody, that was
right.
All
the chair throwing and
deal. All the talk shows, Oprah and Donahue that we grew up on, kids were just boring people talking. But Jerry Springer was, oh my God, this is crazy.
Yeah.
That's what wrestling was like. Oh my God, this is crazy. It was entertainment. You couldn't wait to see what happened next.
Yep.
And Stone Cold was a part of that.
Wow, I never thought of it like that. That's crazy. Jerry Springer's a good comparison and like side by side thing with it.
Now here's the thing. I hate cutting out the idea of Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, or the Macho Man, but I gotta include John Cena in this top 5. I have to. You are not talking my personal favorites, but if you think a top guy, he won his first world title in 2005. Here in 2018, we can finally say he's slowing down. So that's a good 12 years on top. Hogan didn't have that in the WWF.
No.
Hogan came in like 84, was gone by 93, and nobody, and like the Hulk's Austin's run was 97 to like 2001.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like 2002, I guess I should say. The run he's had, John Cena's in there. John Cena, for what wrestling is and has been in the 2000s, really, it's been John Cena's WWE. He's got to be in that top 5.
No, I'd agree. I mean, as much as I'm not a huge John Cena fan either, but he is kind of like the Hulk Hogan of the new era, the modern era.
Same thing as we talk about Hulk Hogan. Everybody knows who John Cena is.
Yep.
Everybody does.
Yep.
We love Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins could easily be a top guy. AJ Styles is probably the best wrestler in the world, but I don't think everybody in town would know who they are by their face. They know who John Cena is.
No, I absolutely agree with that.
That means something, to the company. If you're saying you're the best in the company's history, John Cena's in there. So that means I honestly think Shawn Michaels is the best wrestler of all time. He's cut from my top 5. The Macho Man Randy Savage is the Macho Man, as he's everything we said about him, and the Undertaker is the WWF to me.
You're right.
He really, really is. So somehow Shawn Michaels gets cut out of my top 5.
I see why you do it.
That's what I'm saying. We can have banter, have discussions.
Yeah.
And now we started. I think that one might be the tough one because WWF again has, transcended so many years, so many generations, so many great superstars. Kind of tough, man. You knew somebody wasn't going to make the cut.
I feel like this is something we could continue to do. Like we could do like our top 1 a whole podcast, then our top 2 like a whole podcast.
Oh yeah.
Like That's the way to really do it. Like sit down
for
and
hours
decipher.
about what Stone Cold Steve Austin means to us. And we both cut out The Rock.
Yeah.
Who is the biggest star out of any of these guys. Now, I only cut him because his run on top was even less than Austin's. And even when it was Austin and Rock, I always thought Rock was just that one step below him.
Yeah.
So we're both cutting out Rock, who is again, the biggest star out of any of these guys. He might be the friggin' president in a few years. Like, he might be.
Yeah. And in the end, too, like, it's top wrestlers. Like, yeah, they may have been great, but in the end, like, The Rock isn't wrestling anymore. Like, he's a movie star when it comes down to it. Like, this is the Mount Rushmore of wrestling.
So if you're talking the biggest stars from the WWF, then I guess The Rock is there. But if you're talking
our top five greatest wrestlers, you know what I mean? Like, Stone Cold, yeah, he did movies and stuff, but his career was wrestling. Rock, his career started with wrestling.
Yeah.
That's the way I see that, anyway.
And you know what? I hope somebody comes to us with a different angle on it, and we'd hear it out. That's what's great about wrestling.
Yeah.
Man. That's what's great is that we're not wrong or right.
Yeah.
We're just not. It's opinion, and we can sit here and talk literally all day about it.